Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So, the third major topic we want to look into in this particular topic number 5 is about inter user interface design. So, in this particular topic, we explain the concept of user interface design and human-computer interaction, and then we look into the guideline, uh, or the basic principle for user interface design. So if you remember, the goal of a system design is to build a system that is effective, reliable, and maintainable. So a system is considered effective if it supports a business requirement and meet user needs. A system is considered reliable if it handles input error, processing error, hardware failure, and human mistake. And lastly, a system is considered can be maintainable if it is flexible, scalable, and easy to modify. So output design is an integral part of a larger concept called a user interface, or we short as a UI. So a user interface describes how users interact with a computer and system, and it's consists of all the hardware, software, screen, menu, function, output, and features that effect two-way communication between the user and the computer. The main objective is to create a user-friendly design that is easy to learn and use by the people. So the user interface is the key to usability, which include user certifications, support for business function, and system effectiveness, efficiency, safety. A good user interface design will produce a usable system, which means easy to learn and safe. If not good user interface design, users do not use the system anymore. So the best interface is the one that works best for the user. So how to produce the best interface design? So you need to follow a certain guideline design principle here. So here is a set of general guideline for user interface design for user interface designer to implement in their system development. So the best interface is the one that works best for the users. So how to produce the best interface design? So you need to follow the design guideline principle. So here is a set of general guideline for user interface design for user interface designer to implement in their system development. The first guidelines you need to follow is focus on the basic objective. Focus on the system design objective rather than calling attention to the interface. The interface designer must understand the business function and system goal, and how the system support the individual goal. The overall objective is to design an interface that helps users to perform their job and designed to improve user efficiency and productivity. So to understand the system design objective, it's good starting point to analyze business functions that start with a major function and break and then break them down into a several of level of detail. And then each task must be included in the interface design. The second guideline for user interface design is create an interface that is easy to learn and use. So how to create the interface that is easy to learn and use? So we need to create a design that is easy to understand and remember. So you need to also maintain a common design in all modules of the interface. For example, maintain the use of color, screen placement, maintain the form type and size, and the overall of the screen must be look and feel. Provide a common action and system response that are consistent and predictable. Allow user to correct error easily. And then use a clear label, all control, clear label to all control, clear label to the button and the icon, something like this. So this is for the icon for the flight booking. So you use the clear icon that user can understand, the clear image, and then you use the clear what we call it labeling. Select only those images that a user can understand easily. So means here you need to use the right metaphor for your design. Show all the commands in a list of a menu item. For example, in AirAsia website, hang on. For example here, all the commands, all the command menu is listed in the what we call it in this page. For example, menu for explore, my booking, checking, flight status, and support. Last, make it easy to navigate or return to any level in the menu structure. So this is the example. Select only those images that a user can understand easily. So if you see for this example, the icon do not have a clear message. Also same for this example. So in the help text example at the bottom, only one message is understandable. The other message would frustrated and annoying most users. The third design guidelines actually is provide the features that promote efficiency. So how to promote the efficiency in our design is we need to organize the task, command, and function in groups that resemble actual business operation. And then you need to create the alphabetical menu list, provide a shortcut for experienced user can avoid multiple menu level, and then use a default value if the majority of the value in a field are the same. For example, female for the default value for the gender. The next guideline is make it easy for users. So ensure that the help is always available, provide user selected help and contact sensitive help, provide a direct route for user to return to the point where help was requested, and include contact information. The next guideline is minimize input data problems. Means here reduce the input error to improve in order to improve the data quality. So one way to reduce the input error is maybe we can avoid unnecessary data entry. For example, customer name. Okay, in that case, to avoid spelling error for customer name, so we can do something like this. So the user do not type manually their name in the text board. But what can we do? The student, the customer suppose just enter the customer ID, and the customer name will automatically display into the text board. So this is one way how to avoid the spelling error for a customer name. So to minimize the input data error, so it's also good to provide a data validation check. For example, here data validation check actually, for example, data type check. For example, so you type the password, so you need to validate the password in terms of the format must be 8 characters, including uppercase letter, number, and then another example, you need to check that the format for the data type must be integer, must be numeric. So that is the example of data validation check for data type. So you can also provide the establish a list of a predefined value that user can click to select. For example, you select the country from the list board. Okay, so this is what we call it as a predefined value that the user can select from the list board, and then build in rule that enforce the data integrity. So this is one of the another data validation check. So one way to enforce the data integrity in our data integrity for our input is we apply or we implement a validity check. So one of the data validation checking. So a validity check actually, the value you enter must refer to the another value. The example of validation check. So we can give the scenario something like this. So we want to validate the subject that the student registered for this semester. So in the subject master file, so we have around 20 valid subject code. So if the student input the code subject that do not match in the master file, so the file, so it's failed to check. So means to improve the data integrity, so you need to enter the value that must be referred to the file master. So that is meant by a validity checking to improve the data integrity. And last one, use the input mask. So means display a sample of data format. For example, date format for this one, for date of birth. So you need to put, you need to include the input mask. So which means the user know that the date of birth represent the date for this formatting. The next guideline is provide the feedback to user, which means display message at a logical place on the screen, alert user to late processing time or delay, allow message to remain on the screen long enough for user to read them, let the user know whether the task or operation was successful or not. For example, you want to delete the file, so the system will give the feedback to the user. Are you sure you want to delete the record? So this is one of the feedback. For example, you enter the wrong password for your login form, and then the system give you the feedback, which means you enter the wrong password. So this is the example of provide the feedback to the users. And the next guideline is create attractive layout and design, which means you need to use the appropriate color to highlight different area of the screen. Use special effects. Use hyperlink that allow user to jump to the related topics, and then group the related object and information in one grouping. The next guideline is use the familiar term and image. So in this guideline, so we need to use the familiar common, familiar icon, image, labeling, and term. So the user can know what's supposed to do. For example, here you put the icon, what we call it, for email. Okay, so this is a very familiar image or icon for user to send an email. So this is related what we call it, you need to use the appropriate interface metaphor in your design. So there are a lot of user interface control, or sometimes we call as a user interface elements that you can apply in your design. For example, user interface elements like menu bar, toolbar, command button, dialog board, text board, list board, drop down list board, option radio button, checkboard, and so on. So the most important is you need to choose which is the best user interface control you need to apply in your design. So to apply in your design, so it must be matched to the purpose of the input and the output. So you need to know this output suitable to use which user interface control. For example, input for gender. So gender, we only have female and male. So you better using the input control for input control like option button. Okay, option button or radio button. Sometimes we call a radio button. But if you want to select more than one option, so better you use a checkboard button. So it's depend to your situation. It depends to your input and output. So this is the design tip. So the user interface design tip. So feel free to go to this website to read more about the tip for good user interface design. So that's all the topic for user interface design. Thank you.